NetWorker, Reclaiming Space from Data Domain Devices Triage Guide. In the first section, we'll look to see how NetWorker expires its data. NetWorker save sets reach the end of their retention period. A process called NSRIM changes those save sets to recyclable status. The NSRIM program removes both aborted and expired save sets once every 24 hours as part of the expiration policy. The expiration works at the same time as the server protection policy inside a NetWorker. This is set on a schedule, usually to run once a day, and it is a good idea to only run it once a day as there's no particular reason to run it more often. You can see here the schedule that it's set to execute on. There are no different levels for the expiration process. It is just a question of running it, executing it at a time of your choosing as part of this policy. This runs as part of the server protection policy, which is there by default for NetWorker in all new NetWorker installations. Here we can see the log section. We can have a look in the daemon log to confirm that the expiration policy has run. Looking for the word expiration in the logs, and we can see here exactly when the expiration policy ran and to see if there are any error messages associated with it. You can see here the exact syntax of what that looks like in the logs when the expiration policy has run. Now we're going to look at checking NetWorker volumes to be sure that those volumes are in the correct state, that they can be treated correctly by NetWorker in order to expire data. Here we're in the media and disk volume section. This is where we can check a lot of the metadata associated with our volumes to see the current mode of the volume, the name, where that volume is located, and view the save sets on that volume. When viewing the save sets, we can see the clone retention time, which is the time where that save set instance is expected to expire. So it will be expired after that clone retention time has passed, provided there are no dependent save sets involved. Here we can also change the expiration or change the status, changing the status from normal or suspect, or change the expiration to expire the save sets now, or change the expiration should we wish to do so on each individual save set. Here we can see that we can change the recyclable policy from the volume from auto to manual. When a volume is marked for manual recycling, that means that the normal expiration process will not run on that volume. So the default setting is auto, but if we want to inspect a volume, we have some suspicions about the data on that volume, sometimes we might want to set this to manual so that the normal expiration process does not run. We need to unmount the volume in order to change the status, and then we can change the status over to manual. But this means that the normal expiration process will not run on that volume for while that setting is set to manual. So under normal circumstances, this should always be set to auto so that NetWorker can operate normally on this volume and expire the data normally. There's a scan needed flag, which can be set here. Here we're setting it to scan is not needed. Scan needed also means that the normal NetWorker expiration policy will not run on that volume when the scan needed flag is set. Scan needed is usually used after a disaster recovery process to indicate that NetWorker needs to scan back in the metadata into the NetWorker indexes from these save sets. Note also that a volume needs to be mounted in order for the normal expiration processes to run on that volume. Next, we're going to check on the data domain. The actual cleaning of the data from the data domain happens on a schedule defined on the data domain itself. So NetWorker marks the save sets recyclable, or removes the save sets from the media database. But then it is data domain that will do the actual clearing off of that data from the data domain on a schedule that's defined as the file sysclean schedule in the data domain. We can have a look at that schedule by logging into the data domain, file sysclean show schedule, and we can see for when that's run and when it has run using file sysclean status and when it is set to run on a weekly basis usually. File sys space will give us an idea of the cleanable data on the data domain, but this is an estimate as there's a lot of deduplication going on in the data domain. Sometimes it can be hard to calculate exactly how much data is going to be freed up by the expiring of certain save sets. Next, we'll check the NetWorker logs to see if we can see what has been happening with the expiration policy. We saw previously the expiration policy can be seen through the daemon log, the standard daemon log of the NetWorker server. We also have an nsrim.raw log file, which is in the standard NetWorker logs directory. We can use the nsr_render_log command against this file in order to put it in human readable format. And for example, we can look for the name of a machine or the name of a save set to get an indication of what has been happening with the expiration for specific subsets of data. Here we are looking for the machine VM3129 and seeing what expiration has been happening for this particular NetWorker client. We can also look for errors or warnings in this log to give us an indication of whether there has been some issues with the run of NetWorker expiration. There are some advanced parameters which we can use to change the default behavior of NetWorker expiration. The most common of these is the recover space anytime flag, which can be set in the NSR debug directory. So you just create a file called recover space anytime in NSR debug, and that will have the effect of changing the default behavior of NetWorker to allow eligible save set files to be deleted even during other read operations on the volume, which is not the default behavior. There are a number of other advanced parameters as well, which you can check the documentation for full details. If this, under exceptional circumstances, the NetWorker expiration policy's functioning needs to be changed. Often when troubleshooting issues with the expiration policy, we will want to run the expiration commands manually in order to see more details around how they're operating. Here, using the mminfo-mv command, we can see the list of volumes we have and their different statuses. And then we can run the nsr stage command with the -C, -V, and volume name. And what this will do is it will find any orphan save sets and remove them. NSR stage will perform a volume cleaning operation. It'll scan a volume for save sets with no entries in the media database and recover their space. Space for recyclable and aborted save sets are also recovered from the volume with the save set entries removed from the media database. This is something that under exceptional circumstances we may need to run manually, especially during troubleshooting operations. We can also run the NSRIM process itself manually, and there are a number of different switches here. We will be using NSRM with -X, which runs the expiration, and we can run that against one particular volume using the -V and volume name, or against one particular client, or against one particular client and save set. So this is something we're going to need to be doing during a troubleshooting process in order to get to the bottom of exactly what's happening with a particular save set or a particular volume as regards its expiration. So there are a number of different options we have with this command. Here we're seeing nsrm-C for the client, -N for the save set name, and then the -X to say that it wants to run this expiration manually. If we're having issues with this and we're getting some problems getting to the root cause of exactly what's causing the issue, we can increase the debug level with the -D, which has different levels. Here we're seeing with -D9, and this will give us a lot more debug data to get to the bottom of exactly what might be causing our issue.